Hey, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to everyone. We are going to do a short presentation today on a very interesting topic that I've touched upon before on my YouTube channel and on Spaces on Twitter. Me and Farouk have had many discussions about this, but I thought I'll do something a bit more, uh, you can say, formal or a little more organized, and do a presentation in regards to the jinn hypotheses. And what I mean by that is considering the current interest in the UFO phenomenon on different spheres, I think it's important to get a Muslim perspective on the topic and just to see what different types of interpretations that we have as Muslims and why I believe that the jinn hypotheses or this particular interpretation of what's going on is currently the most sound. So without further ado, let's get into it, inshallah. Now, the very first thing, before we sort of delve into this short presentation, it's important to understand a couple of things. Number one, this particular topic on the phenomenon or the UFO phenomenon, and it's not limited to just UFOs. And when we say UFOs, we think of, craft in the sky or ships of some sort flying through the air. There is so much more to this, as we'll discuss and as we'll see through the presentation. But the thing to note is that you can study this or look at this phenomenon through many different perspectives or many different lenses, or there's many different spheres, if you like. Now, there's the governmental sphere, so there's what's going on a governmental level, and there's been quite a lot of noise recently, especially over the past couple of years. There's been congressional hearings, there's been whistleblowers, and so on, and everyone's waiting for a disclosure of some sort to come. Then you can say, the academic sphere, where academics have been studying the topic of UFOs from many different perspectives over this past several decades. Psychologists have taken a look at the topic and given their analysis. Anthropologists have done the same. Sociologists have done the same. Religious studies professors have also done the same. So there's that dimension as well. Then you could say there's the religious perspective, and that's what I'm going to be going into today. Um, the theophilosophical perspective is probably more accurate because I'll be looking at some of the philosophical implications of this and presenting an argument or reasons why I believe that the jinn hypothesis to interpret this phenomenon as the jinn is most sound currently based on what we know and the evidence we have at hand. So that being said, let's dive in. So what we will be discussing is a couple of things. Number one, we will look at what the jinn are. So what are the jinn? Giving a brief sort of introduction to them. Number two, what's their purpose? Number three, we'll also look at not 5 key areas, 4 key areas. Excuse the mistake in the presentation. 4 key areas of comparison. So number one, it will be the presentation and interaction. So how this phenomenon presents itself and how that compares to the jinn and the interactions between contactees and these beings and how that's similar to what we know about the jinn. Number two, we'll look at deception, the element of deception within this phenomenon, and compare that to the jinn. Number three, we'll look at the phenomenon of abduction, and again compare that to the jinn. And number four, we'll look at possession and attachments briefly. And finally, we will sort of look at some what I refer to as sticking points or the supposed loose ends, things that may not easily or readily fit into this particular theory. And then just conclude on some final thoughts, inshallah, God willing. So I think the first thing we need to do is sort of just briefly look at uh, Islamic cosmology. And what I mean by that is the sort of hierarchy of beings from an Islamic perspective and how Muslims understand the world. Now, we begin with Allah. Allah is the creator, right? Allah is, well, in English you would say God, but it's probably not the most fitting word, but Allah is the creator of everything that exists. He is the first and the last. He has no beginning, he has no end. There is nothing like him, as we read in the 112th chapter of the Quran. And he is able to do all things. He is the all-powerful, the all-knowing, the all-wise. And like I said, there is no comparison to him. There's nothing we can compare to God. We cannot imagine the creator. What we can say about him is what we say about him is based on what we know about him through revelation, through the Quran itself. So we begin with God. He is the creator. Now, the following beings are in no particular order. They're just listed in that way on the slide. But there are creation of God. And God has created everything that exists. Every single atom is created by God. But there are some key beings that are outlined and highlighted within Islam. And there are others that God mentions as well. But these are the ones I guess we can focus on for now. There is the angels, and again, in no particular order. There are the angels. Angels are beings made of light, and they obey God's commands. They do not disobey God in any shape or form. They are constantly and perpetually engaged in the worship of the creator of the heavens and the earth. Then you have the jinn. And the jinn are the beings we're going to be going into in a lot more detail and studying them. But the jinn are made of a type of fire, a smokeless fire. So they are beings who are also were created with a purpose. They are beings that have, you can say, free will, like human beings. And they are beings who, in many ways, are similar to human beings, and then in many ways they're different too. The human beings, and we have the humans, we know the humans are made from a type of clay-like substance, the earth, and we exist in this physical material realm, and we live our lives in this world, and we again have live with a purpose, and we'll get to what the purpose is. And the purpose of the jinn and the human beings is identical, as outlined by the Quran.